Hello dear listener, please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy watching. Greta sat gracefully on a small chair, posing for the members of the drawing club. I managed to leave work early today and decided to stop by her temporary workplace to pick her up and take her home. Through a small window in the door, I could observe her sitting motionless, gazing at some point inside the opposite wall, blinking only occasionally, and it seemed like she hardly breathed while sitting there. The session was coming to an end, and I was ready to meet her in the corridor. After waiting for a few minutes, I heard rustling behind the door, indicating that the lesson had finished. Soon, the door swung open, and people of various ages began to emerge, individuals who had come to learn to draw and discover their inner artist. Greta came out almost last. The teacher and a couple of students remained in the classroom. She exited, rubbing her back as if easing some stiffness. I hurried over to her to grab her jacket, which she was almost dragging on the floor with her other hand, and I expressed concern for her well-being. "You look tired. Did you have to sit for a long time?" I asked. "Oh yes, it felt like an eternity. This time, I had to sit for almost the entire lesson. The fides are hurting. It's just unbearable," she groaned. "Why put yourself through this? You have other things to do. Why did you decide to work as a model?" I inquired. "Well, it pays pretty well actually. And it's not forever. Haven't you ever wanted to try something new, something different? Haven't you ever wanted to tell your boring job to go to hell and do something you really enjoy?" "Yes, but my job isn't that boring." "But sitting in one position like that doesn't seem like something you enjoy," I remarked. "I do enjoy it. It's just that today took a really long time. I'll talk to the teacher about better time management. After all, I'm not made of stone," she replied. "All right, dear. I'm just worried about you. Let's go home," I suggested. "Let's go," she said with a gentle smile, and we headed towards the car. On the way, I asked her a few times if she wanted to go to a restaurant in the evening, as I assumed she probably wouldn't feel like cooking dinner today. But she declined, saying she wanted to lie down for at least an hour to let her back muscles relax. I didn't insist, and when we arrived home, I simply ordered Chinese food for our dinner. Just while we waited for the delivery, my wife lay down on the couch and closed her eyes. In the meantime, I took my briefcase to the office and then fetched a bottle of wine to complement our meal with a not-so-strong alcoholic drink. This summer, we sent our son to camp, allowing us to devote more attention to each other, just like in the early years of our marriage. Back then, we were inseparable. Nothing else mattered except our own moments of passion, and we hardly noticed the world around us. Our love soon transitioned into Greta's pregnancy, and I became even more attentive to her, not allowing her to work anywhere and even hiring a housekeeper to help her with household chores. Greta had somewhat grown accustomed to my care, to the point where I sometimes felt she was taking advantage of it. But I didn't mind, especially when I sat beside her on the couch, placing my hand on her enormous belly, through which I occasionally felt our future son sending me signs, nudging me from within with his tiny legs. But after giving birth, Greta became a bit downcast. Became concerned, but the doctor reassured me that this sometimes happens and that there was no need to worry too much. He prescribed her special vitamins and recommended more rest. We had to keep the housekeeper for an indefinite period. Meanwhile, I had to work more than before to cover the housekeeper's salary and other bills. Sometimes I came home quite late, exhausted, and my wife would still manage to throw fits, accusing me of infidelity and jealousy. For a long time, I explained why I had to work late, but she still didn't believe me. Eventually, I grew tired of it, and after another argument, I moved into our guest house for a month, leaving all the household responsibilities to our housekeeper, occasionally visiting our young son. I didn't want to abandon my wife. I just couldn't handle her baseless accusations anymore, and after long working days, I needed some rest. But eventually, I did return home because I realized I was needed by my family, and I didn't want to live alone without them anymore. During the time I spent not at home, Greta had calmed down a bit. Maybe the time had passed, or perhaps our housekeeper, who had been married for many years herself and had 3 children of her own, had said something to her. Of the next few years, we lived like a normal, average family, taking care of our son and supporting each other. Our relationship was no longer as passionate and intense as in the beginning, but our son's arrival and our love for him made up for that. This year, we finally decided to send our son to camp. It would be beneficial for him to make new friends and take a break from us, and it gave Greta and me the opportunity to spend some quality time together, something we hadn't had in the last few years. "Oh, it looks like our dinner has arrived," I remarked when the doorbell rang. The delivery person handed me our food. I paid him and rushed back to my wife. She sat up slightly, eyeing the bag I was carrying, clearly very hungry. "It must be delicious. I ordered everything just the way you like it." "Oh, come on. I'd agree to any food right now. To be honest, I'm really hungry," she admitted. "Seriously? Any food?" "Yes. Even if I had ordered plain macaroni." "Steven, now you're going too far." She blushed. "All right, I'm kidding. You shouldn't torture yourself like this with those silly diets of yours. You're driving yourself crazy." "Why silly? I'm just maintaining my shape. It's necessary for my work too. Besides, I prefer being slim myself. Or do you like chubby girls?" "Hey." I lowered my head as if embarrassed, then smiled and looked up at her again, saying, "Come on, why would you say that? I like you just the way you are. I'm just worried about you, that's all." "Do you think I don't notice?" "You're exaggerating." "I'm fine. Sometimes I just get tired like everyone else." "You get tired too, right?" She placed the food box back on the table and stood up from the couch. "Where are you going?" "Where are you going? What about dinner?" I asked. my appetite disappeared. I'm going upstairs. I'll take a bath and lie down. I couldn't understand what could have triggered such a reaction in her. After all, I hadn't said or done anything wrong. I had merely expressed my concern for her. But why did she react so sharply? Maybe she was just tired, not wanting to argue with her. I followed her upstairs, and while she was taking a bath, I brought wine and gave her a shoulder massage as she soaked in the foamy water. She always enjoyed that, and I hoped that after this, she would relax a bit and our evening would continue in a more romantic manner. However, it seemed that Greta had different plans, and even after the pleasant massage, she insisted that she just wanted to rest. "What's wrong with you? Why are you rejecting me?" I asked when we were in the bedroom. "Our son has been at camp for a week, and you still won't let me near you." "I told you. I'm tired." "What's so hard to understand?" she replied. "Tired of what? You're essentially not working anywhere even. And the fact that you took up modeling for a while, that's not really work. It seems more like a hobby. What happened?" "Oh, Stephen, please don't start again. My head is pounding. Stop behaving like a typical male." "Greta, I hear you go again. I seriously, how much can you talk about yourself?" "Well, lately, that's all you do. Why are you getting so worked up? What have I done to you? And in general, you're my wife, but you act as if we're roommates in college." "That's enough," she yelled. "I think tonight you should sleep on the couch." She grabbed another blanket from the closet and threw a pillow at me, etching the bedding. I looked at her with disappointment and hurt as she crawled under the covers, turning her back to me. I wanted to say something more, but I realized that the conversation wouldn't lead anywhere, so I just headed downstairs, hoping that by morning, her mood would improve. Almost all the food was still on the table, and to forget the unpleasant evening, I started devouring it while watching some boring movie and eventually fell asleep. The next day was a relief as I didn't have to go to work. Plus it was a day off, and I decided to spend it tidying up our garden, which had become quite overgrown since last year and needed pruning and clearing of bushes and trees. Greta woke up in a fairly decent mood, even somewhat cheerful, as if we hadn't had an argument the previous day. But I didn't want to dwell on yesterday's events and hoped that today would be more productive and positive. After breakfast of pancakes and coffee, I decided to compliment my wife, hoping that her mood would be better than yesterday. "You make these pancakes just wonderfully. I've always loved your pancakes," I said. "Oh, don't suck up," she replied. "Do you think I don't see what you're getting at? Actually, I was just giving you a compliment, or is that not allowed? Why are you so grumpy since the morning?" I just lovingly said I'm not grumpy. "I understand you. I'm sorry I overreacted a bit yesterday, but I really wasn't feeling well." "I knew with your anxiety." She paused. "Do you want some more food?" "Yes, let's." "I need to gather some strength. Today is going to be a very busy day for me," I replied. "Oh, what are you planning to do? It's your day off," she asked. I decided to do some yard work. It looks a bit gloomy out there. I need to trim the trees. It will probably take the whole day. Do you want to help? What can I possibly help with out there? She laughed. Hold this off for you. This or the ladder. I just made a suggestion, I replied. Finishing my last pancake. After breakfast, I went to the shed to find the tools I needed for the task at hand. For the first couple of hours, that period, I was completely engrossed in sprucing up my yard and had no idea what Greta was up to. In any case, she didn't call me or ask for help. She seemed busy inside the house while I shaped the bushes as desired. A little later, I heard my neighbor calling me from over the fence like an old blanket. What is it? Albert? You came to ask for something again. I approached him. No, I just saw that you were working, so I thought I'd say hello. Are you taking care of the garden yourself this year? As you can see, doing some work around the house is also very beneficial. Want to come in? I invited him. Sure, I'll come in. My neighbor agreed. I'd almost turned to go open the gate for him, but he climbed over the fence like a sack of potatoes. Why can't you come in like everyone else? I scolded him. Oh, what? It's more interesting this way, he replied with a grin. I gestured for him to sit down, and I went to fetch some cold beer. Fetch pauses. The beer okay for you? I asked. Butchers and cricked. When have I ever refused one? He replied with a smile. Between I headed inside, remembering that there was still some beer in the fridge, and went straight to the kitchen to save time. In the living room, I noticed that Greta was sitting on the couch watching TV. She didn't see me as the couch was facing away from the door. She didn't even turn towards me, although she should have heard me opening the fridge door. I figured she must have been engrossed in her movie and didn't want to disturb her, so I returned to the yard to continue my conversation with the neighbor. Out. Here you go, I handed him a can. He eagerly reached for the can, and as his sleeve rolled up slightly, I noticed a few scratches on his arm. What's that? I inquired. Oh, don't mind that. Probably a cat scratched me. He hurriedly covered the scratches with his sleeve. A cat, you say? I smirked, noticing that the scratches were rather large for a small domestic animal. Besides, I hadn't heard that he had a cat at home, although he could have gotten one at any time. Yes, a cat. What about it? Looks like a pretty big cat got to you, I remarked. Oh, really? Must have caught it on the fence. Why are you so nosy? Anyway, let's not dwell on it. What are your plans for today? I was thinking of inviting you for a fishing trip. It's so hot for fishing, are you kidding me? No. I think I'll pass. I need to finish what I started, otherwise it'll get overgrown. My neighbor replied. Maybe you'd like some help then? He suggested. Well, if you really want to, I can find something for you to do. But don't expect anything from me later. You asked for it yourself. I won't ask for anything. Don't worry. I just had a fight with my wife, to be honest. So I don't want to see her right now. So you decided to take shelter at my place. Is that right? Something like that, he answered and reached for his cigarettes. Where's your ashtray? The table is as empty as a desert. I cleaned up here, but there should be one under the seat. Look there. I pointed to a seat a bit away from him. Albert got up to reach for it, and as he stepped forward, his foot went through the floor, bypassing a cracked and rotten plank. He fell onto all fours with a loud curse and dropped the can on the floor. What the hell is this? He yelled. Albert, what happened? Are you okay? I rushed over to help him pull his leg out of the wooden trap. I don't know. Seems fine, more or less. Help me get out of here. Oh. This isn't a restful place. It's a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Why don't you fix the floors here instead of resting, he grumbled. You're right. I forgot the scabiou has been here for years. I should definitely renovate it. I'd sit down. Do you want me to get you another beer? Yours spilled. No thanks. I'd better head home. And next time, when I come, you should line the yard with mattresses. Albert headed toward the gate, occasionally looking back at me with a dissatisfied expression, as if I had intentionally set everything up. I picked up the can to prevent it from rolling away and noticed that the spilled beer had seeped into the gap between the floorboards and was trickling toward the center of the gazebo. I stepped outside and, upon closer inspection, realized that the ground beneath the gazebo was sinking slightly. Looks like I'll have some work to do, I thought. I went back into the house, calling out for Greta, but there was no response. Walking down the corridor, I found her still sitting on the couch. I approached her and began to share what had happened in the yard, but she remained unresponsive. Hey, are you planning to play the sealant treatment game with me? Come on, turn off that damn TV. I approached her, grabbed the remote and pressed the button. In the now darkened room, I noticed her motionless reflection. When I turned around to talk to her, I was simply frozen by a horrifying sight. Greta was sitting on the couch completely still, her eyes slightly bulging and her tongue protruding slightly between bluish lips. That was the first part of a fascinating story. The second part will be in the next clip. Now let's hear a fascinating story about a guy whose jealous coworker slept with his wife. He got back at him by pulling a prank that got him fired. Let's get started. I thought I should share this story of what happened to me when I came to this country about 14 years ago. My parents contributed their life savings so I could pay coyotes to bring me to the United States. I was an illegal immigrant from a country in South America, and I made a long trek from my country to Arizona. I lived in Arizona for a while trying to find a job, but it was difficult since I couldn't find a legal job that would pay me under the table. Even most of the jobs that were not hiring because of the recent government crackdown in regard to the E-Verify. We would stand around hardware stores and construction sites hoping that maybe someone would hire me as a day laborer. If we were lucky, we'd get to work 2 days out of the week. So most of the time, we were just wandering around me, and a few other guys that came with me were eating from trash and begging for food. Plus, we had to pay rent for the crowded place we were staying. I wasn't married at the time, but I had parents and siblings back home that I was supposed to be sending money to. But due to my hardship, I wasn't able to do that. Sometimes I would go to bed without eating anything. This went on for 2 years, before we heard about an agency in Florida that hires illegal immigrants to work in farms. The job was hard and very predatory. They take most of your earnings and give a fraction. But we didn't care because at least we were sure of a job every day and could make some earnings out of 5 guys living in 1 bedroom at the time. 3 of us decided to make the journey to Florida. Let's call the first guy Raymond and the other one Gabriel. I was close with Gabrielle and Raymond at the time, not because they were the most pleasant people to be around with, but out of necessity to share resources. When we got to Florida, we were put to work immediately. The agency owned the place we stayed, and we felt secure. We didn't have to worry about immigration because the agency that hired us had their stuff organized. We were their mules working day and night. So they made sure that we were provided for in terms of accommodation, and we didn't feel the need to loiter around so we wouldn't get picked up by immigration. Back then, that job was a godsend in the sense that we had job security. But boy, we worked 16 hours a day, non-stop. And they always shortchanged us on pay. There was this guy named Mickey. He was our handler, like a 24-hour supervisor. He basically made sure that we got to work on time. He paid us in cash, made sure we were doing our job, and would fire us if he didn't like you. He had total control over us, and we feared him. He was the liaison between the agency and us. He was a Mexican born in the United States, and he was a very cruel and no-nonsense guy. He would fire you if you so much as looked at him the wrong way, and typically if you were fired, you had nowhere to go other than loitering around and eventually getting picked up by immigration. So to us, he was like our God and our tormentor. We couldn't go against what he said. We couldn't complain because there was no other opportunity out there. It was just me and my 2 friends in a room, so we had more space than in Arizona. There were other people like us as well that were under Mickey. 3 months into the job, we were making enough to send back home to our parents and family members that supported us through this trip. Life was good, at least during the weekend. Especially on Sunday, we made enough money to go to the bar to look for American girls that we hopefully could befriend to make papers for us to become legal. It was not easy. But eventually I got lucky. I had met this American girl who was Hispanic as well, and things hit up between us. She was not the best-looking girl, but to me, she could have been a goddess. My 2 friends weren't as lucky. Sometimes they would find American girls, but none of them would stick. Around after they ran out of $20 bills. So for me to be able to lock down a girl that cared about me, my 2 friends and others saw me in a different light. They wanted what I had. She would come by our place, and when I got a chance, I would go by her place as well. She had 2 roommates, and they did housekeeping jobs. Operations occurred a few months later. A laborer we knew won a lottery scratch-off ticket. He won about $50,000, and the first thing he did was to go to Mickey and curse him out for how he had been treating us like animals. He had enough money to go back home. A few months later, he was posting on Facebook how he had started a business in his home country. We were so jealous. At least he had made it. We all dreamt of the day we would make that kind of money and have the courage to talk to Mickey. Raymond even said he would punch Mickey in the face if he had that kind of money and tell him, "I quit," to his face. He said that would be very satisfying to him. I knew his nature, and Raymond is usually a man of his word. He's a very confident guy. I could say that Ramon is the alpha of our group because he was more outspoken and could articulate a few words in English more than us. He is the type that thinks he is better than every one of us and would brag about all the women he slept with in the past and present. But unfortunately for him, I was the one that had a girl coming to see me, so while he brags about sleeping with women, I was actually doing it. So he hated me with passion more now than before. He would try to talk to her when she comes to see me, and she would shut him down, which infuriates him. Instead of wishing me luck, he would degrade and make fun of me about how my girlfriend was ugly and fat, and everyone would laugh at me. My girlfriend's looks and weight were their favorite jokes. They would all laugh at me, but it was one of those things that I know that while they laugh, they would have loved to be in my position. They know that I am working on my green card and they wish they were in my position. I was one step closer to getting my green card while they were stuck in the plantation. I knew they wouldn't think twice if they had a chance with her, so it didn't bother me much. For months into our relationship, my girlfriend got pregnant and I assumed I was the father. I decided to propose to her, and she accepted and became my fiancé. The guys heard that I was going to be a father and soon a husband, and their jokes became less and less funny because, while I was moving up in the world, they had been stuck in the same place for almost a year by then. My financial condition wasn't any better, and I was thinking about how expensive it would get with a baby on the way. My now fiancé thought she knew someone who could get a better job that paid more, but I just had to be patient. And now back to the guy that won a lottery. Since the other guy won a lottery, we all started wasting money on scratch-off tickets. Some of us became addicts and would spend $100, sometimes $300 on scratch-off tickets and would win a couple of dollars here and there with no net profit. We were buying lottery tickets almost every day after. Every day after work, they would hand the money to me and I would walk to the gas station to buy some scratch-off tickets. One day, I heard a rumor from another camp that Ramon slept with my fiancé. I thought it was just one of his bragging antics, but the source told me that they went to a bar and he was showing them private pictures of her. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to confront him about the lie and stand up to him, but that would cause us to fight, and I may get fired and eventually end up in the street and be picked up. So I didn't want to jeopardize my condition all because of a rumor. I decided to endure just like everything else. What makes it more challenging was that I had to see him every day. and I have known this guy for a while, and all that while he has been a wild person. If I had a choice, I wouldn't room with him. I tried to brush it off as a rumor and all, but forgot about it till one day when I was spending time with my then fiancé at our place when she asked me a suspicious question. She asked me if Raymond was home. Normally, that wouldn't be a strange question, because she comes by my place sometimes and she is friendly with some of the guys I work with. But my spider sense was tingling. I started asking myself, why would she be asking about Ramon? I didn't want to confront her or make her upset or do anything that would upset her, because she was close to finding me another job that would pay me significantly more, and most importantly, she is the source of my green card. I went back to the original source of the story and asked him to tell me more about what Ramon said, and he seemed sure of it. Also, I confirmed with other people that heard Ramon bragging about sleeping with my fiancé as well. It bothered me so much that I asked Gabriel about it. He didn't admit it, but I could tell by his reaction that he was hiding something. I kind of left it alone till one day someone sent me a picture of my fiancé and Raymond having sex and pictures of her body as well. It was clearly my fiancé, and that was the picture that Ramon has been passing around. Up till this day, I don't know who sent me those photos. I was sure it was Gabrielle, but unfortunately, I wouldn't get to find out because of what happened to Gabrielle later. When I saw the pictures, I was devastated. Any hope of a real relationship with my fiancé went out the window. I was angry. I was just scared of the future, scared that I will be stuck in this job forever. I was angry at Ramon and I wanted to get my revenge for jeopardizing my opportunity. I thought about it for a week till I heard about a prank where someone was given a fake scratch-off ticket and they thought they won. So I found a way to order the fake scratch-off ticket online. After I received the ticket, the next trick was how I could get Ramon to open the scratch-off ticket while he was at work, so he would punch Mickey as promised and get fired. After work, when we were about to buy our ticket, I told the guys that there is a special scratch-off ticket that had a higher chance of winning, and it was sold by a friend and we should buy that one instead. They agreed. I told them that the person selling the ticket will bring it to me after that night, and we will pay him the following morning. They all forgot about the ticket till we got to work. I got to work and bought 4 tickets, one for me, Gabrielle and Ramon, and one for another guy. Ramon's ticket was the only winning fake ticket. But during our breaks, we scratched off the ticket and Raymond was the only winning ticket as planned. That was the happiest day of his life. He had won $65,000. As I watched him jump around, trying to hold back my laughter. I was the only one who knew, so I maintained my composure, hoping he could punch Mickey as promised. He was so happy that he forgot what he said about doing to Mickey. As occasions to gift him reminded him, and sure enough he went to Mickey and called him an effing loser and everything else we all meant to say to Mickey. We were even holding him back because he was so angry. I'll be honest, I was quite satisfied by how much he embarrassed Mickey in front of everyone. He accused him of cheating us out of our money, and how he had been treating us. He left work to call the toll-free number on the ticket. We couldn't even complete our work that day because everyone, except me, was still in awe and I played along. After we were done with work that day, we went home to find Ramon sitting on the front doorsteps, looking like his grandmother just died. He still had the scratch-off ticket in his hand. As we approached him, everyone was wondering why he looked so distressed. He was only interested in talking to me. He asked me why I gave him a fake ticket. I pretended to be shocked and surprised, telling him that the guy who sold it to me told me it was legit. I also told him that I can give him his $2 back, and he lost it and blew up in my face, punching me and blaming me for deceiving him and causing him to lose his job. A bunch of people pulled him away from me as he kept telling me that he would kill me. Then I told him that it was an honest mistake. When we went back into the house and it started to sink in that he had lost his job and would soon be homeless, he went soft and humble because he knew he would need us more than ever. We told him that we would let him stay, but if Mickey finds out, we would be in trouble. The following day at work, I pulled Mickey to the side when nobody was watching and told him that Raymond's ticket was fake and he is still at the place. Mickey wanted to make an example out of him, and he showed up every day to make sure Raymond was not there. He couldn't afford to go back to Arizona, so he was basically hanging around hardware stores, looking for someone to hire him as a day laborer. I then fiancé, now my ex-wife, told me that Raymond reached out to her several times, but she blocked his number. That's when he wanted to crash at her place she shared with 2 other roommates. I got married to my fiancé before she gave birth to our son, and I divorced her after I got my 2-year green card. I failed to mention that after Raymond left, I confronted my fiancé and she confessed everything. She told me that every time she came over to see me, Raymond would be hitting on her. Although she cheated on me during our relationship several times apart from Ramon, I still thanked her for keeping her word and finding me a job taking care of 2 kind elderly white couples at their home. Actually, I lived with them, cooked for them, and did all their housework for 3 times more than what I was getting paid at the farm in better condition. I worked for them for 4 years, and in those years my English improved enough for me to get an education. She helped me get my papers as well. Although we are no longer married, we are still in good terms. I went to trade school to learn how to become a welder. Now I am making $28 an hour. My ex-wife didn't put me on child support because I bought her a house for her and my son to live in. She had body image issues and it affected her self-esteem, so she was sleeping with any guy that complimented her the right way. I couldn't stay married to someone like that, but without her, I would still be working on the farm. I wanted to get a DNA test on my son to make sure he was mine. However, the older he gets, it became pointless because he was a spitting image of me. I planned to visit my family back home this Christmas. Not sure as for Gabriel, he saved enough money to travel back home, but he got into trafficking and got himself killed. I still haven't heard from Raymond until this day. I looked him up on Facebook, but he hasn't posted in years. If you enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment. It's important for us and will help promote this video. Thank you for watching us.